Hey guys, Mr. Muscato with you again. Today we're going to take a look at the rotating face project. All right, so in our last lecture, we started to take a look at the wonderful world of the motion tween. So remember that a motion tween is basically Flash's way of automating that frame by frame technique. Okay, so what we do is we define the first frame, we define the last frame. All right, so what does the object look like at the beginning of the sequence? What does the object look like at the end of the sequence? How long is that sequence going to take, and what path is going to be followed in that sequence? All right, and then Flash, basically what it does is it takes all that information and then creates those middle, those in-between frames for us, hence the name motion tween. All right, so if we take a look at the content folder for cycle 4, basic motion tweens, all right, and we take a look at our rotating face demo. So you guys are going to create something along these lines, all right? So obviously it doesn't have to have, a sun setting in the background or anything like that, but the basic elements are here, right? So we are going to need a face, and we're going to manipulate that face. Okay, and then after that, we're going to have another object in motion. All right, so I chose to create a sun. All right, while the face kind of bounces around the stage there a little bit. Um, so those are the two basic elements that we have. And then the other thing is that, we should set it up so that we have a good loop animation sequence here, right? So remember that for a good loop animation sequence, basically what we want to have happen is the beginning of the animation and the end of the animation are similar enough that when the player resets, it doesn't it flows naturally. Okay, so let's take a look at how to create this project. All right, so the first thing that we'll do is we'll go down to Flash. Okay, we're going to create a new action script 3.0. And we're going to draw our face. Okay, so how you choose to draw the face is up to you. I'm going to use the oval tool and the paintbrush to accomplish that task. All right, so I'm going to jump over to the oval tool. I'm going to select an appropriate flesh color, if you will, kind of orangish. Right, now when we draw in Flash, it's always easier to draw bigger than what we need, and then we'll resize it later using the free transform tool. So it's always easier, especially when you're drawing with a mouse, it's always easier to draw something that's larger than what you need. All right, so at this point, right, so I drew my oval. I'm going to draw some eyes in here. All right, so I just selected the paintbrush. You can change the brush shape. All right, I'm going to use a little wider brush here. All right, I'm going to make a couple of white eyes. Okay. And then pick an eye color, so we'll make his eyes blue or something like that. All right. And then I'll put some irises in there. Okay. So basic eyes, and then while I have the black color selected, I can draw a nose. All right, and then I'll switch over to a red for a mouth. Okay. And then I'll give him some hair. Give him like kind of like a comb over thing going on there. And that'll work. And maybe some eyebrows. Okay, so we have a face. Okay, now one of the things that you want to be heads up for is as you're drawing, if you are getting objects selected, okay, what you want to do is you want to turn object drawing off. All right, so there's this icon down here. So if you have the paintbrush or the circle tool or the oval tool or whoever, right? And you're drawing and you're getting outlines around your objects. Okay, as you draw, it's almost like the object is selected. Okay, that means that you have object drawing on. So go down into your toolbar and you want to make sure that object drawing is turned off. Okay, because we do want to draw with unprotected objects, right? So let me get rid of those guys. All right, and we're good to go. All right, so that's my face. All right, so remember that for a motion tween to work, the object needs to be a symbol. Okay, now I don't want my symbol to be this big, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to resize him first, and then I will turn him into a symbol. The best tool to resize from a visual perspective is the free transform tool. So underneath the selection tool is the free transform tool. I'm going to select that. I'm going to drag a selection box around the whole thing. Okay, and then I'm going to resize this face to to an appropriate size. All right, so I want the face to probably be about this big when I start, which is fine. Okay, let's take a look there. That looks good. And then in order to use a motion tween with this guy, then what we have to do is we need to turn him into a symbol. Okay, um, so turning him into a symbol protects him, turns it from an unprotected to a protected object, and then it also allows us to create a motion tween with this guy. So to do that, make sure that you use the selection tool, select the whole guy, all right, the whole face, modify, convert to symbol. Okay, we're going to name our symbol. Okay, type movie clip is fine. All right, registration point in the upper left-hand corner is fine. All right, we're going to go ahead and click OK. All right, so at this point, you'll notice that in the Properties tab, you have the Library and the Properties tab. In my library, as soon as I create that symbol, that face, all right, he appears in my library. Okay. One of the advantages to a symbol, which we'll take a look at a little bit further down the line, all right, is that we can create and use multiple instances of this object if we want to. So anytime that we have a symbol, we have that capability of using multiple instances of the same object. I don't want multiple instances yet, so I'm going to take those guys away. All right. And then I'm going to create my motion tween. So remember the steps to a motion tween. All right. There's basically 4 steps. What you want to do is you want to think about what the object looks like at the beginning of the sequence. You also want to think about what the object is going to look like at the end of the sequence. And then you want to figure out how long is that sequence going to take, and what path is that sequence going to take. All right. So if we were just creating a simple straight line motion tween, all right, which we will do, then we would, just basically go ahead and create that movement. All right. So this particular project is a total of 50 frames, or a minimum of 50 frames. I'm actually going to extend mine a little bit. It's probably going to be like 75 or 80 frames, just to maybe slow things down a little bit. Creating a motion tween that is 25 frames or 50 frames or 1,000 frames basically takes the exact same amount of work. It just depends on how fast something gets from one place to another. Okay, so I'm going to position my object in the first frame where I want it to start. So I want my object to start in the upper left-hand corner. All right, and then I'm going to create my motion tween. There's a few different ways to create a motion tween. What I find kind of the easiest thing to do is I'm going to right-click on the symbol, and then right at the top it says Create Motion Tween. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Okay. Down in my timeline, see what happens. Okay, so I have a single keyframe at the beginning. Flash is kind of asking me, okay, where do you want this next keyframe to go or to be? Okay, so it's positioned itself at frame 24. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change the position of my object, and I'm going to drop him here. Okay, so in terms of a simple motion tween, all right, I have two keyframes. I have my beginning keyframe, I have my ending keyframe, okay, and then Flash has drawn all of the in-between frames for me. All right, so each one of those dots corresponds to one of these time frames that we have in our motion tween. So we have defined the first keyframe and the last keyframe. Flash has defined everything else. Okay, so in terms of running this thing, right, if I hit enter, right, Flash has given me 24 frames, 1 second's worth of movement. All right, now I can change the duration of that movement. I can change the location of the movement. I can change the beginning and the ending points of the movement. In our previous projects, when we have been creating the individual frames by pressing F6, what's happened is if we wanted to change the path of the object, it wouldn't be very easy. We'd have to go in and basically change each individual frame. With a motion tween, since we've only defined or created the first and the last frames, and Flash has filled in all of the other frames for us, it's a very simple method of changing our path. If I go back to the first frame and redefine where that first frame is, and I go to the last frame and I redefine where that frame is, Flash redraws all those in between frames for me. So there's no downside there, right? It's a simple task of changing two keyframes, and Flash changes the 22 frames that are in between. All right. In terms of duration, so let me put these guys back real quick. In terms of duration, I can adjust the length of the time of the motion tween. All right, down in my timeline. So if I go down to my timeline, I'll get, if I position myself at the end of the frames there, I'll get the little double horizontal arrows. Right, I can make the motion tween longer. All right, simply by dragging left. All right, so by making a motion tween last more frames, you're slowing down the action. Right, if I want the motion tween to be faster, right, I choose to use less frames. Right, now the action is uh, is faster. Right, so the more keyframes I have, the slower the sequence. Okay, the less keyframes that I have, the longer the faster the sequence. Okay. So ultimately, I want about, I don't know, 75 to 80 frames. All right. So, since my rectangle is wider than it is taller, I might use, 25 frames or so to get from the left to the right there. So that's probably a pretty good speed there. The next thing that I want to do is I want the face to end up down here somewhere, right? So we're going to do basically a rectangular pattern. And again, there's a few different ways to accomplish this technique. I can manipulate the line itself, the motion path itself. All right, but in terms of kind of moving in straight lines, it's sometimes easier just to add another keyframe as a second waypoint. All right, so this is my first frame. Right now, this is my last frame. Okay, I want it to take about 15 frames or so to get from this point down to this point. So I'm going to jump out to frame 40, I guess, and I'm going to press F6. Mac guys, remember it's F and F6. Okay, so basically what I did was I added another keyframe here. All right, and then I'm going to reposition my object here. Okay, so now you can see the path. All right, so from frame 1 to frame 25, I move from there to there. From frame 25 to frame 40, I then move down. All right, and then I'm going to go back in the other direction. Okay, so we'll take about the same amount of time, so about 65 frames or so. So I'm going to go out to frame 65, and I'm going to press F6. All right, so simply by selecting the frame that you want, you're going to add a keyframe at that point, and then the rest of the frames there, all right, the in-between frames are going to be filled in with time frames. Okay, so remember the purpose of a time frame. Okay, in the absence of a motion tween, a time frame simply redisplays the last keyframe. However, in this situation, since we're in a motion tween, those time frames become placeholders for the motion tween itself. All right, so I'm at frame 65. I'm going to reposition my face over here. All right, so far this is what I have. Okay, and then in the last frame, I want this to be basically right where the um, the animation started, because I want to create that loop animation. All right, so the last 15 frames or so, all right, so from 65 to 80, so I'm going to go out to frame 80, I'm going to press F6 again. All right, I'm going to position this guy right before, his, the beginning. Okay, and I can tell where the beginning is. All right, so if you take a look at this, all right, if I go to frame number 1, all right, and this is frame number 80, all right, so that's basically what I have so far. All right, so if I run this as a movie, all right, so Control Enter or Command Enter for the Mac guys, okay, the movie resets. All right, when we're in pretty good shape here. Okay, it looks like a pretty natural reset. There might be a little bit of a skip there, but it's not too bad. It's not really noticeable. Okay. At this point, we can start to manipulate the face itself. So as it moves, I also want it to rotate, and I also want it to resize and change shape and that sort of thing. Okay, so I'm going to do that at the individual waypoints for my sequence, for my movement. All right, so I want the face to start here at frame number 1, starting off as that size. At frame number 25, okay, I want it to be rotated and maybe smaller. Okay, so the free transform tool allows us to change the appearance of the object. All right, so I'm going to select the free transform tool, and I'm going to make the face smaller, number 1, simply by clicking and dragging one of the corner drag bars. But I'm also going to rotate this guy. So if you move onto the frame itself, you get the resizers. But if you move off of one of the corners, you'll get that little curly cue, which at that point means that you can rotate the object. All right, so I'm going to kind of turn them upside down here. All right. So basically what I've done is you've seen that now as the object moves, he gets smaller. What Flash is doing for us is it takes the appearance of the object in the first frame and the appearance of the object in the last frame, and it basically does the math. It says, okay, I need to get the object from point A to point B. I also need to shrink the object from X size to Y size, and I need to rotate the object from 0 degrees to nearly 180 degrees. So it does all of that math for us on each subsequent picture. So that's really a nice feature, right? So instead of us worrying about, well, what's the math so I get a smooth transition in terms of rotation and resizing, we just define the first picture and the last picture, and then Flash does all of that other stuff for us. It does all the math for us. Okay, so we're good there, right, with the first half of it. All right, from frame 25 to frame 40, so you can see that Flash has basically kept the original size intact and the original rotation, which is good. Okay, from frame 25 to frame 40, though, all right, I want the object to get much bigger, I would say, at this point, right? So what I want to do is, again, I want to use the free transform tool, all right, and I want to grow this face. Now, be careful that you don't move that you're not basically falling off the stage. So you see right now, if I run this, right, as the face grows, it kind of falls off the stage there, a little bit off the side. All right, so at this point, I probably also want to redefine that point. Okay, so while I'm in frame 40, I can use the selection tool, select the object, and then move my face in, and we're going to change the path of this guy a little bit. Okay, so we want to keep him on stage. We don't want our face to fall off stage. All right, so we were working on frame 40, and we have him here. Okay, at frame 65, I want him to also be rotated and maybe smaller again. All right, so free transform tool here. We'll spin him. All right, this way we'll make him, smaller. So we'll resize him as well. Okay, maybe we want to, drag him out towards the corner a little bit, just to change his appearance there. Okay, so we have something that looks like this. If I run this as a movie just to check it out, all right, we're in good shape there. This is a good basic movement. All right, our face is resizing, our face is rotating, and it's doing basically all the things that we want to have happen here. All right, so our face layer is done. It took 80 frames, right? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 keyframes. Okay, so basically what we did is we defined 5 frames, but our sequence is 80 frames long. That means that the other 75 frames Flash drew for us, which is, a huge labor-saving device for us. I will go ahead and rename my layer face. I will also lock my layer. I'm done manipulating this layer right now. Okay, so then we're going to move on to the next layer. The next layer then, I think, I'm going to draw a background because I want to create that same sequence that I had here. Okay, so I want basically the same kind of effect. All right, so I have this sun that I drew that starts off stage, right, above off stage, and then basically looks like it's setting and it disappears behind my grassy hill here. Okay, so let's go back. All right, so I'm going to add a second layer. This is going to be a background layer. I'll go ahead and rename him. Okay, as we've discussed in class, Flash automatically adds a single keyframe and as many time frames as we need to, to kind of make all the layers the same length, which is good. Okay, I'm going to hide my face layer real quick. All right, so the dot underneath the eyeball, I'm going to hide him out because I don't want him to be in the way right now visually. Not that he would be in the way in terms of tools, but visually. Let me try that again. I want a little bit of a mound there, but not too much. There we go. That's better. It's a little bit more lifelike. Paint bucket, fill it in. All right, we're good there. I can change the stage color while I'm here. All right, go ahead and add the, change the stage color to blue. All right, so we have a nice blue sky. Okay, good. And, okay, so one of the elements, if you'll take a look at at this particular picture, right? So one of the elements that I have are these flowers. I guess you could call them tulips, kinda. They're tulip shaped. All right, if you look very, very closely at them, you'll notice that all 5 of these guys are identical. Okay, which means that I only drew one of them. Okay, because there's no way that I'm going to be able to draw 2 pictures that look exactly the same. It's impossible. I'm not that good. All right, so power of the symbol. All right, so I'm going to draw, and I'm going to draw this off in the workspace. So this is one of the reasons why we use the workspace. So even though I'm drawing my background, I'm going to draw a symbol. All right, right now my grassy hill here, right, is an unprotected object, and that's fine. I don't need it to be protected, okay, because it's just a blob of green. All right, however, I'm going to draw a flower. Okay, and I want to use multiple copies of that flower. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw one. Whoops, didn't want to do that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw one of these guys. All right, kind of out in space, and then turn him into a symbol so that I can use multiple instances of him. All right, so I'm going to just kind of scroll over here a little bit. All right, and then I'm going to draw one of these flowers out in space. All right, so I'm just going to do that. All right, and a little leaf there, and then maybe instead of a tulip, I'll draw, I don't know, something else, something yellow. Let's see here if I can pull this off, right? So I'm going to start there, and then I'm going to draw kind of leaves. Maybe I should have stuck to the tulip. That's horrible. All right, maybe I'll stick to the tulip. Maybe yellow tulips. All right, so let's see if I can do this. All right, so boom, boom, boom. There we go. All right, and then I'll use the paint bucket to kind of fill that in. Okay. I could resize this. If these guys are too big, remember, it's always easier to draw big and make it small. Okay, but this looks like it's about the right size. I'm in good shape here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this guy, and I'm going to turn it into a symbol. So remember, this is still an unprotected object right now. I'm going to select the whole thing, and I want to make sure that I only select the flower. I don't want to select any part of the grass or anything like that. All right, so I'm only selecting the flower, and I'm going to turn this into a symbol. Modify, convert to symbol, or you can also press the F8 key. All right, Mac kids, FN F8. All right, and I will call this flower. Click OK. So if you go to the library at this point, you'll see that your flower symbol is in here, right? So I have my face symbol, and I also have my flower symbol. I can use multiple instances of my flower, all right, to position on my hill. All right, so let me get recentered here. And what I can do to use a multiple an instance of a symbol, right? You can simply click on it and drag the object down. All right, so you're using your selection tool. You can click the object and drag it down and place it wherever you want. Okay, so I'm going to place 4 of these flowers. All right, and once you have them, placed, you can kind of reposition them. Just click and drag on them. All right, so you can put them wherever you want. All right, and remember that we're still on our background layer. Okay, so now if I bring my face layer back on, all right, and I run it, okay, so you can see that my face, kind of disappears back behind my hill. All right, so I don't want that to happen, right? So obviously I want my background layer to be below my face layer. Okay, so far so good. All right, looks good so far. All right, next thing I want to do while I'm working on my background layer, I might as well put my name on it. All right, so let's just check out where the stage is so I can put my name here. All right, so again, I'm going to select a paintbrush. I'm going to select a darker color. I'm going to sign my name. All right. Having trouble with that E. All right, that'll do. All right. Make sure that everything is on the stage so far. So far, so good. All right. So 2 of my elements, or 3 of my elements really, are in place now. Okay. I have an object in motion, a face that is rotating and moving. Okay. I have a background. I have my name. I need one more object in motion. The last object in motion is really up to you. What do you want, as the last object in motion? It doesn't have to rotate. It doesn't have to change direction. It certainly can if you want it to, all right, but it doesn't have to. All right, so what you're going to do here, all right, is what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically create a sun out in space here, turn it into a symbol, and then add a motion tween to that. All right. All things that are motion tweens should be on their own layer, or not should be, but have to be on their own layer. All right, because the way that Flash works is that if there's a motion tween, it has to be on its own layer. So I'm going to lock the background layer. I'm going to add another layer. Okay, this is going to be, we'll call it the sun layer. I'm going to, first of all, not minimize, but make this stage a little bit smaller. All right, so I have a little bit more room to draw in up here. right, in terms of the sun, I'm just going to use the oval tool. All right, I'm going to select yellow. I don't want a background. All right, maybe I'll pick like a, I don't know. Let's see here. It's beige. I guess I can pick a redder color. Does that make sense? Yeah, maybe not. Okay. If I want to make a circle, remember that you press and hold the Shift key while you draw your oval. All right, and that's a black sun, which is no good. All right. So remember that you also want to change your fill colors. Okay, so your fill color and your stroke color should be the same, so you don't have a background. Press and hold the Shift key. Let's try that again. Okay, so there's my circle. All right, and I can reposition that. Okay, just to give us ourselves a little bit more room. And then I'm going to select the paintbrush and I'm going to draw the little sun rays around it. All right, so remember we're still dealing with an unprotected object. So I'm drawing. All right, and I made sure that I don't have object drawing turned on. All right, so there's our sun. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into a symbol. Okay, so I want to make sure that I select everything, right? You can also do a Control A, or Mac guys Command A. That selects everything in the current frame. All right, and since the sun is the only thing that we have in the current frame, that'll work. Modify, convert to symbol. You can also press the F8 key. Okay, I'm going to call this sun. All right, so my sun is going to start off stage. So I'm going to start him over here maybe. And then I'm going to pull him down and through diagonally until he's off stage, or at least hidden behind the hill by the end of the sequence. All right, so this is really, we're really just defining a motion tween with 2 points. All right, we're starting him out here, and then we're going to drag him through the stage down here. All right, so I am on the first frame here. All right, I'm going to right click on my sun, my symbol, create a motion tween. Okay. Notice that Flash did not advance the pointer, so it's still kind of looking for a definition for the first frame. What I want to do is I want to define the last frame. So I'm going to slide the slider all the way out to frame 80. I'm going to grab the sun. I'm going to pull him through, all right, until he gets to about there or so. Okay, so basically, right, what we have right now is something that looks like this. Now, usually the sun does not set in front of your grassy hill. All right, it should be setting behind the grassy hill. So I'm going to pull the sun layer down below my background layer. So I get something that looks like that. All right, let me put him back to full size. And let me recenter everything. All right. So now I have something that looks like that. All right, so my face is doing its thing. All right, that's in the foreground. That's the topmost layer. My background is next. Okay, and then my sun is actually behind my background, and the reason for that is that so that it looks like the sun is setting behind the hill. If I run this as a movie, I get something that looks like that. Good loop style animation. Okay, so even though the sun doesn't begin and end in the same spot, the beginning of the animation and the end of the animation look similar, right? So in frame number 1, my sun is off stage. In frame number 80, my sun is off stage. Okay, so the beginning and the end of the animation look alike. They don't necessarily, the objects don't necessarily have to be in the same position. It's just that the beginning and the end of the sequence should look the same. Okay? So again, if I run this as a movie, I have my face doing its thing, I have my sun doing its thing, I have my background, which is my hill, my flowers, and my name. They're hanging out, they're not doing anything, they're static, and we're good. All right, so once you're done, make sure that you save everything. Remember that you are submitting the red project file to the assignment on Blackboard. Okay, I always want to see the project file. All right, I don't want to just see your animation. I want to see how you created it. All right, so make sure that you submit that red project file. It has the .fla extension on it. All right, so that's it for the rotating face project. Um, Good luck with this. If you have any questions, please come and visit me after school or ask questions during class. And that's it. All right, this is Mr. Mascaro signing off. Till next time, have a great day.